Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Back at you and Gloves Off. I'm Paul Buitron. I'm here with Grandmaster Richard Hackworth, and we're touching base on a particular subject matter: preteens, teens in the martial arts. And I'm going to tell you why. Most martial arts schools get the little guy before they become preteens, and then they get the person in college out of high school. It's that preteen teens that are not drawn to the martial arts, and this is why we need it most in that age group. And who better to explain it to us than Grandmaster? How we doing, Grandmaster? You doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing well, and actually, I'm glad that we're doing this topic. There's such a need for it, and there are so many reasons that we'll go over today of why people should do put their preteens and teens in martial arts. And the number one reason is you always hear schools talking about the bullying problem. So self-defense is definitely needed, but what they don't tell you is that 90% of the bullying happens to students between the ages of 13 and 18, middle school through high school. So that's the time that your child needs self-defense training the most to help them protect themselves. And the self-defense training doesn't just give them fighting skills, it gives them confidence. And bullies are less likely to target somebody with good self-esteem and good confidence. So I would say that that's primarily, the number one reason for middle schoolers and high schoolers specifically to be in training on a regular basis. And a little note to parents that normally you can get a better price on the long-term program anyway. So make that commitment to your child's safety and happiness. You can either make the investment in their safety and happiness now, or you can make the investment into counseling later because they had to drop out of school at 15 because they couldn't handle the bullying. And I had an adult that came in and joined my class. That's what happened to him. He's had miserable jobs out there, and because he never graduated high school, he dropped out at 15 because of bullying. And so his life options are so limited and restricted. And he said, I just wish my parents would have put me in some type of martial arts, whether it was karate or savate or kung fu, anything. And then the other thing is that because preteens have such a sedentary lifestyle, they're so out of shape and so unhealthy. It's not just the diet of junk food that they like at that age. It's the fact that they spend more time on their devices, in their computers and video games, than they do physically doing anything. So the physical fitness aspect of, martial arts training is definitely going to help battle the childhood obesity problem in this country, and, just keep your youngsters fit and healthy, because this generation right now is predicted to be the first generation in history to have a shorter lifespan than their parents. And it's because of a lack of physical exercise and poor diet.
So, you said there's a lot of things that resonate with what you said, and you couldn't have said it better. But parents need to understand. People will say, "Oh, there's kids that do karate or martial arts or savate that are preteens and teens." Yes, probably because they started when they were 8 years old, 7 years old, and now that they have formed it into a type of discipline and a lifestyle. But to get kids inside the school at that age group, people want miracles. And we live in America, the microwavable country of the world, where they think that in 15 days their child is already going to have all these techniques below them and the confidence and everything else. It doesn't happen that quick. People need to understand that when you're starting something, you're going to start it from scratch and you're going to start learning. Fighting is one thing, the benefit from the martial arts, but fighting is not the outcome. And we have a huge array of problems within our school systems, and parents should start getting involved in there because a lot of our school systems, with this no tolerance, if they're picking on you and you're the bully and the bully's picking on you and picking on you and hitting you and hitting you and hitting you, nothing's going to happen to the bully. Okay. But the instant the bully turns around and defends himself, more likely that kid's going to be expelled. He's going to get the book thrown at him because they have something called no tolerance. And this no tolerance nonsense has led a lot of into what people call school to prison pipeline. And that's what we have in a lot of our school systems now. They'll put a kid into an alternative for defending himself in grade school. The next time he does something, he's going to juvenile or juvie. All of a sudden, now he's 17 years old and he's a junior and something happens. Now you're going to prison because you had that thrown at him. So more so than ever, we have to teach our kids discipline, self-confidence, the ability to stand up and learn how to express themselves articulately, and be stern in how they're saying and know what they're doing and their rights for themselves. And martial arts teaches that. It teaches people what's right and what's wrong. Granted, parents search the school, research the school, be able to place your student with somebody that the community has already embraced as a school. Not because Joe Blow is a police officer and he's teaching in his garage, or because so-and-so came back from the army and he's teaching in the garage back. You know, understand what I'm saying? At the park.
Oh, yes.
No, go to a reputable school that has the credentials for that. When you go in there, parents, and you take a kid for the first time, look at the other students. Look at the way the ones that have been there longer time, 1 to 2 years, and look at the way they're acting, because that's exactly how your child is going to end up going. That's the pedagogy of the school. The self-confidence. Do they say hi to you, or do they meet you with a grip, with a handshake? You know, is it firm? Is it, you know what I'm saying? All that stuff, start paying attention to, because that's the type of discipline that's going to be. Now, you said another thing, fitness-wise. Everybody needs to do a form of exercise, and you're correct. They're all on their devices. They're all playing on their cell phones. They're all playing on the TV, on the computer, on the laptop, on the tablet. Kids today are more tech savvy than they were 20 years ago. In fact, our cell phones, the camera on our cell phone has advanced so much that the video camera itself is better than the movie cameras that they were using in Hollywood in the 20s, in 2020, in 2000, okay? 20 years ago. So things change. What has changed now? Peer pressure. Everybody has gone into the social media craze. So parents, be careful with that. Be careful with the bullying, because the bullying now, especially in this area, has turned to, if you do not vape, you're not part of us. So all of a sudden your child starts vaping, they do a drug test, and because the oils that they have are CBD oils, which is hemp, he's going to come out positive. And guess what? That's going to be another way for them to put them in the penal system. And right now, more than ever, confidence, self-esteem, discipline have to be enforced. Whether it's karate, judo, savate, boxing, take them to a place where you're going to learn a discipline. And remember, research the place. And we were talking about prices. The cheapest is not always the best. The most expensive is not always the best. So research the school and where it's at. And you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I think you hit the nail on the head about the things that go on socially for them. And being in a highly disciplined environment is important for that age group because from the ages of 12 to 17, that is when they have the worst peer pressure and peer influence. That is the naughtiest age group, So if your child isn't in a structured, disciplined environment, and they're hanging out with their buddies, being exposed to internet porn, to drugs, and all these other things. And some parents are like, oh, well, my kid is smart. He knows better than to do that. You're right. He knows better, but he's going to do what his friends are doing because he wants to fit in. So you need to put him in an environment that's highly disciplined where he's going to fit in with some people there that are more like him and more like what you want him to be or become. Or I said him, but I mean, he or she, so as a matter of fact, one of the female students that I have, the mother told me that the reason they joined our school after having visited about 7 other schools was that when she came in, she noticed that immediately all the kids lined up, they sat down and they were quiet. And an instructor came over and greeted her. And she said, there was no discipline like that at the other schools. That the kids were running around, jumping on chairs, just being crazy, waiting for their class to start. And so she realized that there's a huge difference when you're involved with a place that is highly disciplined. And I tell people that not everybody has $30,000 to $50,000 a year to send their kid to military school, but every parent can afford to make the investment in martial arts training where they're going to develop the same level of self-discipline, courtesy, respect, strong moral character, so dollar for dollar, martial arts is actually the cheapest of any youth program when you consider all of the things that they get from it. You're not going to have to put your child in counseling because of behavior issues. And that's the other dangerous thing. Even if you do take your kid to counseling for behavior issues, they want to medicate them. They don't want to treat the reason. Now, the reason he's being naughty is because his friends are naughty. When he's at his friend's house, he sees his friends disrespecting the parents, things like that. So that environment, that social interaction for martial arts, developing the character development, mental and emotional resilience so that they're strong enough to stand up against this stuff is very important. And I know like in our youth program, we have a very solid reputation for helping students not just get through middle school and high school, but with grades good enough to qualify for scholarships. And we currently have 4 of our black belts that are in medical school, law school, various professions that they're working on. So if you want your child in an environment that's positive, disciplined, and structured, martial arts training is the most affordable option available because counseling and military academy and all that stuff is very, very, like I said, $30,000 to $50,000 a year. And I know that because I have a friend of mine whose son was in military school in Georgia, and they were paying almost $50,000 a year.
Absolutely. No, and the words that you said are true, and parents need to understand that. The most of the calls that I get is because of bullying. In fact, 90% of it are because of bullying. My son was bullied. He was bullied here, and he's bullied in the baseball team, and he's bullied at the football team, and he's bullied at the basketball team. What do I do? Well, listen, parents, if your son is being bullied and you yourselves are not doing anything about him to change, It's your fault, not your son's fault or your daughter's fault. It's your fault. Let the rocks fall where they're supposed to. Okay. And let me tell you why. Because there's a lot of martial arts schools in every city. There's a lot of training that goes on in every city. And you can find a place that suits you for time, ability, and what have you. Okay. And it's up to you to start taking your child that way. If your child is doing bad in math, you take them to a math tutor. If he or she's doing bad in English, you take them to an English tutor. Well, then here you take them to a martial art tutor. But you all have to understand this about martial arts. Most martial arts, if it's a good school, they're going to teach your child an actual vocation. So in the future, if your child goes to college or what have you, he can use this as a second form of income. So it is actually, you're doing two things. I'm teaching them self-defense. I'm teaching them how to, and this is his personality and character. I'm teaching them self-defense, self-esteem, self-confidence. And guess what? I'm also teaching them a skill, a hard skill, a vocation that they can use in the future. If it's a recognized school, not Joe Blow that lives down the corner teaching out of his garage. Talking about an actual school that's been around, an institute that's been there for like yours. If the child becomes 20, 24 years old or 20 years old and he moves to the city and he starts teaching others, they could use it. That's what this is for, but learn the correct way. So parents, use it as a twofold, a hard skill for your child and also for them to change their character and personality.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because it's something I hadn't planned on talking about. But I think many parents fail to realize that a good martial arts school is going to offer leadership development training. I know you have a leadership program at your school. I have one, but not every school does. Not every school has an instructor who's attended a leadership program or an instructor's course or had to perform an internship. And I know, like for me, I had to serve as an intern at a martial arts school in Korea for 2 years before I was eligible to go to the instructor's course and graduate and become a licensed certified instructor in our martial art. And the average sport karate school doesn't have anything like that. You know, you have to find those qualified instructors and those exceptional teachers that do have the background to offer leadership training and instructors training.
Absolutely. You know, when I lived in France, I had to do an apprenticeship, and Savate is very much big on apprenticeships as you go up, especially in the teaching ranks. And I went up all the way up to professor, which is the highest of the levels. And people do not understand that. People here think, oh, he got a black belt, he can go out there and teach. It's not that way.
You know, it's sad because I used to work for one of the billing companies, and they had over 1,000 schools that we entered their billing for, and I wrote their advertising materials. And in a survey of those 1,000 schools that are out there doing business, charging tuition, the average new school owner only has 3 years of martial arts training when they open their school, as compared to someone like ourselves who has decades under their belt when they open their school.
You know, I started Savate when I was, or Cipote Savate, when I was 5 years old. I'm 54 now. I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be when I was 6 years old. I'm going to be 55 this year. So next year I'll be doing this 50 years. Mm-hmm. I've been teaching since I was 18. Why did I start teaching? Because when I used to spar with other people, they wanted to find out what I was doing different. So we opened up a Savate club on Saturdays. And I would teach anybody that wanted to come in. Then, of course, I left to France and I had my club in France and I taught in France. And then I moved back down and we had the schools. This school has been open since 88. And so I learned from that and bringing it back in. And I found out a lot of things it's trial and error. Nobody taught us, you or I, the business aspect until we were knee deep inside the business of our own club and we needed help. And somebody that probably had gone through trials and errors came over and helped us, like and you've mentored a lot of people. I've known that for the longest time with your network and your knowledge. And people nowadays think that you can go to a junior college and get a black belt at the YMCA and go open up a school the next year. It doesn't happen that way. You have to be brought up in it. You have to learn, you have to apprentice under somebody else and learn this hard skill, if you want to put it this way, this vocation.
Yeah. Now, I know we're getting close to the end of our time, but I did want to squeeze one more topic in. And that is, a lot of times parents will hear that, martial arts training will help your child get better grades, and they don't understand how. And first of all, the structure and the discipline teaches that child to sit up straight and listen to the teacher. So they're going to absorb more in class just because they're observing more and paying attention more. And the other reason is because through the rank system, the students learn about goal setting. And so they know that if I want to achieve this, I have to do these things from the curriculum. And it's the same thing when they're at school, when they realize that, hey, if I want to get an A on my final exam in math, I have to do the work. There's no easy short path to success. And they're used to doing the work because they do it every class. So
Absolutely.
That's my last point to the parents. If you want to see better grades, better behavior, start with martial arts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because why? They're going to learn that discipline. They're going to there's a difference. I want to talk about the word discipline. There's discipline that you're going to discipline a child. You're rearing him and he did something wrong and you punished him or you grounded him. That's a form of disciplining. Martial arts teach a discipline. I'm going to learn the discipline of Hapkido, Taekwondo, Savate, Capoeira, Campo. Those are disciplines. And within those disciplines, there's a type of rearing in a person inside. You're doing this wrong. Follow this. Do it this way. Why? Because we don't want you to get hurt. And that's the reason that exists. But you're absolutely correct. Once you start getting a class that the child is paying attention to and understands that if I learn this material, I'm going to go for this rank. So I better get this down packed and memorize it. It's the same thing that happens in grades. Once they start getting that habit, they're going to use that habit in school.
Actually, I think you brought up the best point of today's show and about the discipline. And I had a parent come to me one time when they realized that, their child is developing discipline and self-discipline, because now not only do they know to do what they're told, they know right from wrong and responsibility, and they do things even before being told. So this mom was explaining to me that every Saturday morning she'd go tell her kid, look, if you want to go with your friends today and do whatever, you got to clean this room up, right? So after he'd been at martial arts class for about 6 or 8 weeks, she goes Saturday morning to tell him breakfast is ready and you got to clean this room. She opens the door, his room is clean. And she said something to him. She goes, well, your room is clean. He said, well, I thought you wanted me to clean my room every Saturday morning. And she didn't know how to answer because she was so happy and surprised that he had reached that level of self-discipline that he now understands that I have this responsibility and I'm going to do it because it's my responsibility. I don't need to wait for my mom to tell me to do it. And I think as a teacher, that's one of my prouder moments to hear that I've had that kind of positive influence on a student.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's wonderful. Those are the stories that we all hear and we just kind of places a smile on our face and we keep on going down the road. And that's basically what keeps us going. When you hear those good stories, when you hear those words coming from parents, I just did this, or students, hey, professor, I did this and it helped me out getting this job or what have you.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
I really
I want to,
appreciate being a guest on today's show. I thank you so much for inviting me back. And before I go, I want everybody to know that I have a blog, worldmartialartsmedia.com. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some notes from what we talked about. And I'm going to post an article highlighting all of the points that we made, and they'll be able to find that there. And then I know if you'll leave your contact information, they're always welcome to call the show host, Professor Buitron, and get firsthand information from him as well. So, but like I said, thanks again for allowing me to be on the show today, and what a wonderful topic. I was glad to
it
be
is,
a part of it.
no, thank you it was very informative that you made us bring back certain issues that we hadn't touched base. And for those martial arts schools out there and instructors that were listening in, click on the bottom, comment where you're from, what school you're from. Keep on listening in, because in Gloves Off, we talk about a lot of different things. And parents, if you're listening, put down there where you're listening from, and maybe if you're looking for a school, one of us can probably help you find one in your area with the networking that we have. And if you like this show and you found it interesting, share it and press like. And folks, until next time, you all have a great holiday weekend this weekend. And once more, much peace.
Yes, thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe.